I'm live. At least I think I am. Wait, one moment. Hi. I wrote hi 2 times in the chat. No, so today we'll be doing my top 10 favorite music artists. And so the criteria for this list, there's not really any criteria. At least I don't think there is. But it's just my personal favorites. So if there's a band that you absolutely love, or you absolutely hate, if there's a band that you don't like that's on this list and a band that you love that's not on this list, please don't take offense to that. I might actually love the group that you love, and I might love the group that you dislike. So we all have our own opinions. We can't all have the same opinion, then life would be very boring. So before we start, before we start, we're going to have some honorable mentions. So not all of the honorable mentions and people on my top 10 list I own in my CD and vinyl collection. Actually, there's only one person on that list that I don't own anything from, but I do own like a few things from his. I'm just gonna move this for a sec. Wait, one moment. Yeah, I have some of his band's work, and they're also gonna be on this list. So my honorable mentions include CCR, Queen, Pink Floyd. I know that's like and Queen are gonna be shocking. Lou Reed. Who else? Jefferson Airplane, The Doors, Santana. All these great bands didn't make my list. The Animals, The Zombies, The Who. They didn't make my list. Who else? I'm looking at my CD shelf. Deep Purple. They didn't make my list. A lot of artists didn't make my list that I absolutely love. Like also CSNNY, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. They didn't make my list. Sparks. They didn't make my list, which I would have had them on this list, but I only know one album like really, really well, and then the rest I'm kind of familiar with, but I'm kind of not, and I'm still getting into them. So I didn't want to include them, even though I did include one artist like that, and they're ranked pretty highly. And also, I forgot to tell you, I have this new mic, so hopefully it's working properly. So I have my vinyls. Here are my CDs here. So I'll start off with number 10. Just gotta get the vinyl. The Jimi Hendrix Experience, or just Jimi Hendrix. This used to be shockingly my favorite album of all time, and then you'll see later which one is my favorite album of all time. This is the US version of the album, which is better than the UK version in my opinion. And for me, this is his best album. And for each of these artists, I'll name my favorite song by them. So for me, it's the title track off this album that is my favorite Jimi Hendrix song ever. And he's one of the greatest guitar players of all time. For me personally, I absolutely love him. He's probably in my top 5, not number 1, but he's in my top 5. And other albums that I like or I love are Axis. I mean, he had like a very short career. He only had like 3 years worth of albums, and he only made like 4. He made 3 with The Experience, and he made 1 like solo / live album, but he's made a lot of posthumous. Well, the Hendrix license has made a lot of posthumous releases. When I say a lot, I say a lot. On this album, Purple Haze is such an iconic song. Manic Depression's great. Hey Joe, The Wind Cries Mary, Fire's excellent. Third Stone from the Sun's a great little instrumental. I mean, it's not little; it's a very long song, but yeah, it's long, but it's great. Foxy Lady, of course, which might have used to be my favorite. It's still probably in the top 5, but it's not my favorite now. And then Our Experience, and I know there's like they combined all the songs off of the UK version and the US version and made an entire like I think it's on CD, but I own this on vinyl. So when I bought this, it was one of my first vinyls, and I was like, well, where's Red House and Remember and all those other songs? And they weren't on the album. So I was like, okay, whatever. But I mean, at least I got the songs I absolutely love. Here's the back cover with Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell, who's an awesome drummer. And the other albums that I absolutely love are Axis Bold as Love, Electric Ladyland, which might actually be the greatest double album of all time. Besides, what else? The Beatles' White Album, Blonde on Blonde by Bob Dylan. Another honorable mention. Bob Dylan's great, but I don't like his voice. It's a bit irritating. What else? Why am I looking at this album? Other Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin. Those are all great double albums, but Electric Ladyland's an awesome double album. And of course, the last record released in Jimi Hendrix's lifetime, and that was Band of Gypsies with I forgot who's on that. I think it's Billy Cox and one other person. I don't remember. But yeah, this Jimi Hendrix's entire career was great stuff. Not underrated at all. He deserved the recognition. So that is number 10, Jimi Hendrix. Number 10, I've covered on my channel, and it is Black Sabbath. Example, Paranoid. I couldn't get into this album for the longest time. I liked War Pigs, Paranoid, and Iron Man, but the rest I found a bit boring. But now I did a video listening to it again for Canadian Stud Muffin. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel. It's a great YouTube channel. Yeah. But Black Sabbath is one of the greatest bands of all time, and they're just amazing. I've always loved them, and I've always respected them. And that also brings me to another honorable mention I forgot about, Frank Zappa. I forgot about him. I'm going to forget about a lot of people as we go along, and then I'm going to name them. But on this album, War Pigs, of course, Paranoid's awesome, even though it's kind of overplayed, and I get kind of tired of it sometimes. Planet Caravan, which is a very underrated song. I absolutely love it. Iron Man, of course. Out of Paranoid and Iron Man, I'd probably go with Paranoid over Iron Man, but they're both great songs. Electric Funeral, Hand of Doom, Rat Salad, a great, I don't know if you could call it a song. It's an instrumental showcasing the talent of Bill Ward on drums, and Fairies Wear Boots, which is one of my favorite Black Sabbath songs of all time. It's my favorite song on this album. So other albums that I absolutely love by them include their debut, Master of Reality, Bloody Sabbath, Sabotage, and my favorite song by them is Hole in the Sky off of Sabotage. I absolutely love that song, and I've always loved that song. And here's the CD. I don't even know what I'm showcasing now here, but yeah, Black Sabbath. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne's one of the great. what am I saying? Ozzy Osbourne isn't one of the greatest singers of all time. I probably wouldn't put him in the top 50. Even though, if we're talking like in general, I wouldn't put him in the top 50. But personally, I'd probably have him in the top 50, maybe even in the top 30. He's just probably the greatest, besides from one other person I'll mention, the greatest heavy metal singer of all time. That's my opinion. Don't say I'm wrong. That's your opinion. My opinion is that I think he's one of the greatest heavy metal singers of all time. And that is Black Sabbath at number 9. So I'll just put it there. Now I own I have the CDs here, but I have a vinyl that I brought up. So my vinyl player is downstairs. So I brought up all these records. It was originally gonna be downstairs, but I decided no. So. This may shock you, but gotta get up. You probably know because this is the compilation. Coming at number 8 is the Rolling Stones. Hopefully you can hear my voice. Coming at number 8 is the Rolling Stones. If you said that they were better than the Beatles, I could maybe actually no, I probably wouldn't. You'll see why later. But behind the Beatles, they're kind of very close. But I just prefer the Beatles. I mean, you'll see later why. But yeah, this is Hot Rocks, the compilation. But I also have Between the Buttons on vinyl. I own like a. Okay, it's right here. The other one I'm gonna do for this week, I'm gonna react to this week, so I will not show it. I'll keep it a mystery. It is this 40 Licks compilation, and my favorite. I'll just put it there. My favorite compilation, not compilation. What am I saying? My favorite song by them is "Monkey Man" off of Let It Bleed, and some other great songs by the Rolling Stones are. Of course, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, Get Off My Cloud, Mother's Little Helper. 19th Nervous Breakdown's definitely a great one. Painted Black, which is probably my second favorite Rolling Stones song. Maybe. I've been saying maybe a lot in this live stream, haven't I? Under My Thumb. Ruby Tuesday, Let's Spend the Night Together, Jumping Jack Flash, Street Fighting Man's awesome. That's definitely a top 3 favorite Rolling Stones song for me. Sympathy for the Devil, I'm kind of tired of. I still do love the song though. Honky Tonk Women, which has really grown on me. Gimme Shelter, another awesome song off of Let It Bleed. Midnight Rambler, and You Can't Always Get What You Want. All songs off of Let It Bleed, which is my favorite Rolling Stones album. This is a cool compilation, actually. It has a gatefold, which not many of my records do. So it has a nice gatefold. Nice collage, but I don't get why Mick Jagger's front and center. And I do love this album cover. Even though I have this, just like I'm showcasing a greatest hits album, doesn't mean I only like their greatest hits. I absolutely love like albums like Goat's Head Soup and Sticky Fingers. And I haven't heard the album that everyone says is popular. And it's popular and everyone has said it's their best album. I haven't heard that one yet, and I'm going to hear it this week. I bet you guys already know what it is, you music fans. Their Satanic Majesty's Requests, Aftermath, all of those those run of albums from Between the Buttons up to maybe It's Only Rock and Roll are amazing. The ones I've heard. So 8 is the Rolling Stones. I'm just gonna fix my record pile for a sec. There, and I'll put my CD away. The Rolling Stones one. We don't need it for the big one. Unless I'm for later on when I'm showcasing some of other artists' albums, I probably won't be touching my CD shelf. So, at number 7, you may be shocked I like this band. You've probably never heard of this band. Maybe you have from like maybe 1 or 2 hits. One of them is on here. But it is the Kinks. And I own one of their albums, but I love a lot of their albums, like the Village Green Preservation Society, Arthur, Face to Face, and something else, which might be my favorite. Besides Village Green. And this. This is my second favorite. My favorite song by them is probably, I don't know, it's very hard because they have tons of great songs. But songs like Autumn Almanac and the Village Green Preservation Society are amazing. But I also love David Watts' Waterloo Sunset is an amazing, amazing song. Ray Davies was such a talented songwriter. And I forgot to talk about in the Rolling Stones. They were all great in the Rolling Stones. But there were 2 brothers, Dave and Ray, and they didn't get along. They often they're like the older version of Noah. Is it Noel Gallagher from Oasis? I'm not sure. I don't care. Those 2 brothers from Oasis, they always argue with each other, and they hit each other with a tambourine on their head, each of their heads or something. I don't remember. But on this album, there's, of course, Lola. There's Ape Man. Those 2 were very popular in the 70s. You also have songs like Contenders, which starts with like a country beginning, but then it goes to like a rock, really, really cool, hard rock kind of sound. Strangers is such a great song. And I think Dave Davies is as good as Ray Davies as songwriting. I mean, maybe Ray Davies is a bit higher. And Dave Davies is a great guitar player. He's one of the most underrated. And also, This Time Tomorrow's another great song. Yeah. I have the 2 CD deluxe edition, so it comes with outtakes and everything. This. And I won't show this back cover because it's there's the back cover if you want to see it. So it comes with this like book that comes inside the CD. So and I forgot to say Lola. That's a catchy song, but it gets me annoyed very quickly. I do love the song, but I get kind of annoyed with it sometimes. Also, I forgot to say some other great songs off of this are Rats, Gotta Be Free, Power Man, Denmark Street, and Get Back in Line, and there's many others. And, okay, now I've decided what my definitive favorite song by the Kinks is. It's the Village Green Preservation Society, followed by Waterloo Sunset, then Autumn Almanac. Yeah, that song's just great, and I hope to get the Village Green Preservation Society on CD soon. I was looking for it when I went to Sunrise Records, and they didn't have it. They had this, so I picked that up, and now I've grown to love this album, maybe just as much as the Village Green Preservation Society. Yeah, this is what an amazing album and group. They were, but I hope they release a new album, because it would just be really good. Sorry, I'm just really tired. Next up, I'm so sorry. Very tired. Next up, at number 6, The Velvet Underground. They are one of the best bands ever. I mentioned Lou Reed in my what was I going to try to say? I mentioned Lou Reed in my honorable mentions, but I think he's just way better in here. I mean, don't get me wrong. I just reacted to one of Lou Reed's albums, Transformer, and I hope to react to more, like Berlin and all those other great ones. But I've actually heard their entire discography, and I had an old YouTube channel, which we do not talk about. I ranked and reviewed all of their albums, and this came out as number 1. Now it's the other way, where this is my least favorite by them, even though I absolutely love it. It's a 10 out of 10. And this was actually the first one I actually ever heard by them. I got this for my birthday, like a few years ago. So that's a nice sleeve. They should have those for every vinyl record instead of those crappy paper ones. So songs on here that I absolutely love are Who Loves the Sun, Sweet Jane, Rock and Roll, Cool It Down, I Found a Reason, Train Around the Bend, Head Held High, and Oh Sweet Nothing, even though Lonesome Cowboy Bill and New Age are also great. I have one of their CDs here. Let me get it. It's one of their most popular, probably one of the most famous album covers of all time, the Banana one. Velvet Underground and Nico. This one's great. This one has Sunday Morning, I'm Waiting for the Man, Femme Fatale, Venus and Furs, Run, 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 which is my least favorite song on this album. I know it's hard to believe because it has songs like the Black Angels Death Song and European Sun on it. But, All Tomorrow's Parties is probably my favorite song on here and one of my favorite songs by the Velvet Underground. Heroin, of course, very iconic song. There She Goes Again, and I'll Be Your Mirror, and then, of course, the Black Angels Death Song and European Sun, which I just mentioned before. But I also have my favorite album by them is the 1969 one. That one's underrated, but it's great. And my favorite song by them has to be Sister Ray or Jesus off the what I'm trying to say. Jesus off of Velvet Underground, and probably my favorite is White Light White, the song after. What am I trying to say here? Sister Ray is my favorite song by them off of not Sister Ray, White Light White Heat, and Jesus off of the 1969 self-titled album. So that's loaded. I'll put that in pile, but I'll talk more about the Velvet Underground. I just want to put the record away because it's a bit heavy. So I'll just talk about the CDs. The CD. Yeah, Lou Reed's one of the greatest songwriters of all time. I like Nico. She's German, so she does have a heavy German accent when she sings. You could hear her accent. Nothing against her. I think she has a great voice. Maureen Tucker, which to me, there's like barely any drums on it. It's more like a tambourine on this album. And the production by supposedly Andy Warhol, I don't even think it was him, isn't that great. And this copy these albums never sold well. So, there was no crisp production until like the last 2 albums. John Cale, he had a great solo career. I haven't listened to any of his music, but I heard it was great. And when he was replaced by Doug Yule, I think I prefer Doug Yule like the later years over the earlier years, even though I absolutely love all these albums. They're all 10 out of 10s. But I gravitate to listen towards the last two albums more than the first two. But I do love all four of them. Who else? Sterling Morrison. I believe he moved to bass on those last two albums after John Cale left. I don't really know the entire line. Like, I know Lou Reed was always the lead guitar and Maureen Tucker was always the drums. But Sterling Morrison was sometimes bass, and then he was sometimes guitar, not lead, rhythm. And Doug Yule, I think he was rhythm. He was a rhythm guitar, and he was singer. He was a singer on some of the songs like Candy Says and Oh Sweet Nothing. And he did the harmony with Lou Reed on Jesus, but it got really confusing near those last 2 years and everything like that. And I haven't listened to Squeeze, if you were wondering. I have no interest in that album. It's like a Doug Yule solo album, which I do like Doug Yule. Don't get me wrong, he's a great voice. But I'd rather listen to the ones with Lou Reed over Doug Yule because it's Lou Reed. What's not to love about him? Except for his voice, maybe. If you don't like Lou Reed's voice. I love Lou Reed's voice. And on this album, I'll shut up if you want me to. Sorry. So if you peeled the banana, which I would probably never do if it came with a peelable banana, it was like that. And this was the back cover. And I hope to do a ranking after the Led Zeppelin one. I'll be doing a ranking and reviewing of the Velvet Underground. So my favorite song by them is Sister Ray off of White Light Waiting. Yeah. White Light Waiting. Number 5, I don't own any of his albums. I want to, but whenever I go to Sunrise Records, they only have his greatest hits and the later albums, which I'm not a big fan of. And of course, I'm talking about Paul McCartney. What's not to love about Paul McCartney? His albums McCartney and Ram are both some of the best albums ever. And albums like Band on the Run, Venus and Mars, those albums with Wings are all great albums, and I highly recommend them. And some of his later albums, like Chaos and Creation in the Backyard, are very good, and I highly recommend those ones too. Like that too. My favorite song by him is The Backseat of My Car on Ram, the final track. I think it's one of the greatest album closers of all time for me. Yeah, for me, he was just a musical. I mean, he is because he's still alive. He's not dead, but he is a musical genius, and he's probably my favorite musician ever. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He played the drums. He played the guitar. All those McCartney albums, like McCartney 1, McCartney 2, and McCartney 3, that trilogy, he played all the instruments on those albums. Maybe, I think he got a little help from Linda on the second one, I believe, and maybe on the first one. But he did most of it, at least all of it. He did mostly all of it by himself, and that just goes to show how impressive Paul McCartney can be. I mean, he's one of the greatest songwriters also, and he could play the trumpet, he can play and the piano, he can play almost every instrument. I'm kind of exaggerating there, but he's just amazing. Paul McCartney. He's one of the people I want to see live in concert. And I don't think I ever will, but because he's a lot older now, and hopefully he doesn't die soon. Hopefully. I don't want to talk about death right now, but that's Paul McCartney for me. I think Paul McCartney is just for me, he's the greatest singer of all time. He's the greatest, not the greatest bass player, but he's the greatest singer. He's the greatest songwriter ever for me. That's my opinion. If you say, "Oh, you're wrong," well, that's your opinion. It's my opinion that I think he's the greatest songwriter of all time and the greatest singer of all time. So now at number 4, you may be thinking, well, you just heard them like recently, and you now know what it is now because I said that. But I'm like, but why am I saying I am like? What was I saying? But I've been so impressed with them that I had to put them on this list, and I had to put them really highly. And of course, I'm talking about Yes. This is my favorite, Close to the Edge. And I've also heard the great and wonderful Fragile. This one's awesome. But if you want to hear more of my thoughts on the album separately, then go check out the reaction videos. I was thinking about buying their material, and when I saw it at Sunrise Records, I bought it. And, my favorite... Did I mention my favorite song for Paul McCartney? Yeah, The Backseat of My Car from Ram. My favorite song from... Yes, I don't own the album which it's on, but it's Starship Trooper off of the Yes album. That's amazing. And then probably my second favorite, Long Distance Runaround, then it's Siberian Car 2 off of this one. This is the album that Long Distance Runaround is on. But they're just amazing. John Anderson's one of the greatest singers of all time. My opinion, once again. Bill Bruford, he's probably been in... I think he was in Genesis also. He was in King Crimson, Yes, and Genesis, I believe. I think so. Maybe. But if he was in all 3 of those bands, he has been a member of 3 of the biggest progressive rock bands ever. And that just goes to show how talented he was. I mean, as a percussionist, he's probably better than Alan White, who joined for, I think, this was the last album with Bill Bruford. And I want to listen to those King Crimson albums because I'm very interested in them. Of course, we have Rick Wakeman on keyboards, one of the greatest keyboardists of all time. Whoever this guy is, I don't know who he is. Like I said in that video, I had no clue. He's probably like a producer or something. Chris Squire. He's probably, for me, the greatest bass player ever. Not Paul McCartney, not John Paul Jones, not even Geddy Lee, who I'm not the biggest fan of, like, his vocal-wise. He's not the greatest singer of all time. But bass player, he's greatest bass. He's, for a lot of people, the greatest bassist of all time. Not for me, it's Chris Squire. If you want to see how goddamn amazing he is at bass, then you have to check out Roundabout if you've never heard it, because chances are you've heard it if you've seen the memes. And then we can't forget about Steve Howe. He's just awesome. For me, top 10 greatest guitar players of all time. Once again, my opinion. So the way that these CDs are packaged, just want to show you. I like the way they're packaged. They're like packaged like the Beatles remastered ones. And it's, of course, on the Atlantic label. So you'll see another band that's on the Atlantic label just like really, really soon. And some other albums I want to check out are, of course, the Yes album, their debut, Time in a Word, Tales from Topographic Oceans, Going for the One, Even Tornado, Drama, and I can't forget about Relayer. And I want to listen to Key Studio, not just the studio tracks from those 2 albums, and Magnification, their last one with John Anderson, and maybe 90125, maybe. But I don't like. If you know me with David Bowie, I don't like those 80s albums at all. Except for Scary Monsters and Super Creeps and Let's Dance. Those are the ones I absolutely love. But the rest is garbage. Maybe Tonight's okay, but Never Let Me Down is one of the worst albums ever. That scared me. But with Yes, they can do no wrong. So maybe I'll check out 90125, but you'll see. So that is Yes, coming at number 4. And it's gonna suck because I'm gonna have to put all these CDs. Okay, I'm not worried. Coming at number 3. Well, I was just gonna continue my sentence now, but I have to put back all these CDs, which is gonna be very hard. I'll take these 2. So I'm gonna use their debut as an example. You already know what it is, but I just got their 3rd album yesterday, So of course we're talking about Led Zeppelin at 3. I could have put them at number 1, but they're my second favorite band of all time. So you probably already know the top 2. Yeah. So I have this album, which is my favorite so far. I have their 2nd album, which I did review. Another great one. And I have their 3rd. And proof that I have the album, I have it right here. So that review for Led Zeppelin 3 is coming very soon. I just got to give it its final listen tomorrow, which the video will be coming out tomorrow. So this is my favorite. And of course, they're on Atlantic Records, but then they moved to Swan Song after Houses of the Holy. And I believe they made Swan Song. And Bad Company's also on Swan Song. And my favorite song by them is The Rover off of Physical Graffiti. And I'm very familiar with Led Zeppelin. That's why they're ranked very highly. So I'll just use the CD as an example. I should have not brought up any of these vinyl records besides the Jimi Hendrix one, because that's the only one I don't have on CD. Led Zeppelin 2 is very amazing. It's actually as good as the first one. Why am I blanking? And on here, there are songs like Whole Lot of Love, What Is and What Should Never Be, which is my favorite song on the album. And Thank You's on here, the Lemon Song, Heartbreaker, Ramble On, Bring It On Home, Moby Dick, and what else? Living, Love, and Made, She's Just a Woman. And if you want to hear my thoughts on these 2 albums, the first 2, then go check out my ranking and reviewing of each of them. And most of these, after the debut, they had gatefolds for all of these. So, and I like this album cover. Not my favorite, but very good. So these last 2 are going to take longer. So coming at, oh yeah, I forgot to say about Led Zeppelin. Other albums or other songs that I love include Thank You, What Is and What Should Never Be, Tangerine off the 3rd album, How Many More Times, Dazed and Confused, Stairway to Heaven, of course, Trampled Underfoot off of Physical Graffiti, and many, many more, like Good Times, Bad Times, Communication Breakdown, Whole Lot of Love, When the Levee Breaks, Misty Mountain Hop, No Quarter, all of those songs. I can go on and on about all the great Led Zeppelin songs. Coming at number 2. Are we all shocked with this one? I'll take out all of his albums right now. It won't take me long. I'll just have to take them all back later, but it's fine. I'm just gonna grab those 2. I do have more albums by him, if you're wondering. It is David Bowie. Coming at number 2. This year, or last year, he has really grown on me. I've always what was that gibberish that I was speaking? I've always loved, let me grab the 2 albums that I've I've had for a while. So I've always loved Hunky Dory. That was always my favorite. And then I've always loved, of course, Ziggy Stardust. But I've always loved this one more. But now they've kind of like swapped. So now this is my preferred David Bowie album out of the two. But this is my third favorite. This is my second favorite. My favorite is Station to Station, but I don't own that, sadly. And you all might get mad at me, but I rank Lodger higher than Heroes in Love. That's very crazy, but I think I don't like instrumentals a lot. So when I was listening to Low, I almost fell asleep. I don't like listening to instrumentals besides Speed of Life and Warzone off those albums. And I'll tell you more about Heroes later. Check out my review for that. But Lodger's great. And all of these albums, besides one of them, was on the RCA label. So I'll take out one. Hunky Dory. I'll use Hunky Dory as an example. Like that? No, it's like that. And these remasters were really well done. And I don't own a remastered version of the album Let's Dance, which this is the only 80s album by David Bowie I own. I want to get Scary Monsters and Super Creeps, but I haven't found it anywhere. I could order it, but I want to find it in stores for cheaper. And if I can't find it in stores, I saw it in stores once, but I decided to buy another David Bowie album that I wanted more instead, which I don't regret. I wish this was like a gatefold for Let's Dance. Maybe it was. I don't know. I don't own the vinyl record, but this. So I should give like a rating for all these albums. I haven't done it for the other albums because I don't know. These top two I'll like give ratings of some of the albums. This is gonna take a while. Yeah, so I'll rate this like an 8 on 10. This is a very good album. I don't love it, but I think it's a great album. 10 on 10. I know that might piss people off, but this is my favorite David Bowie song of all time. Boys Keep Swinging. 10 on 10. This is, of course, a 10 on 10. Maybe even an 11 on 10. This is in my top 10 favorite albums of all time. And, of course, Hunky Dory, 10 on 10. Maybe even an 11 on 10. It's in my top 20 favorite albums of all time. And so I have, of course, Heroes, 9 on 10. Amazing. Very good. All of his albums are very consistent. I like all of his albums through so his 1969 album Space Oddity, or David Bowie, however you call it, through Let's Dance. I don't mind Tonight. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I think it's decent. And of course, this is the most recent one I bought, and I bought this instead of Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. That is a lot insane. This is such a great album, and I might even think this is better than Ziggy Stardust some days. But I think Ziggy Stardust has the better songs, but this is the more like listenable album. So that's all my David Bowie stuff. I have like another copy of Heroes, and I have a compilation coming at number 1. So I'll just take out all of the albums I own by I mean, I own more, but I destroyed some of them. You already saw. It's the Beatles. Are we all shocked? I've never talked about the Beatles on my channel, but never know. I may talk about them someday. Yeah, so the Beatles. Example, I have Rubber Soul, and I have Sgt. Pepper on vinyl. I think I want to get Revolver on vinyl, but I own it on CD, which I'll show you all my CDs from. So I have Hard Day's Night. Great album. I have their debut, Please Please Me. I have their performance at the Hollywood Bowl, which I barely play this, but. And I have my favorite album of all time, Revolver. This is a masterpiece. Like a 200 out of 10. For me, it's like the greatest album ever made. I think my favorite Beatles song of all time is very hard. They're like my favorite band of all time. So it's like picking your favorite child almost, even though I don't have children. And it's like picking your favorite Velvet Underground album too. I love the packaging of this album. I play this. This is probably my most played album ever. And is the CD in here? Yeah, it is. Of course, this was famously remastered in 2009. I think that was. They're the band that have impacted my life so much. And Ringo used to be my favorite Beatle, if you can imagine that. He still is, deep down inside. But I think I've appreciated George, John, and Paul. I think Paul I've appreciated the most recently. They have, of course, they're on the Parlophone label, and Sgt. Pepper was their last album on Parlophone until they. Of course, there's Magical Mystery Tour, but that was released on Capitol, and in the US, but in the UK they released it on an EP. I'm talking about an LP, not an EP. Ugh, God, so hard to explain. And of course, this is great artwork done by Klaus Vormann, who did the artwork for the Bee Gees' first album, and he's also a great bassist too. He did the bass on. He played bass on Transformer on some of the songs, and he played on some of John Lennon's albums too, and George, and maybe some Ringo, I think. Yeah, the Beatles. So let me just talk. So coming at number 1, the Beatles. Coming at number 2, David Bowie. Coming at number 3, Led Zeppelin. Coming at number 4, Yes. Yes, that's another album. Coming at number 5, I hope to get some of his albums, Paul McCartney. Coming at number 6, the awesome Velvet Underground. Coming at number 8, I'm not gonna get the vinyl, the Rolling Stones. Wait. Oh no, I forgot. Number 6. So sorry. Number 7, the Kinks. Number 8, the Rolling Stones. Number 9, Black Sabbath. I'm just gonna put all of these albums here. And of course, number 10, Jimi Hendrix. So I hope you liked this live stream. I'm very non-professional when it comes to live streams, but I hope you enjoyed. And if you want, so if it's your first time, subscribe. And if it's not your first time and you're thinking about subscribing, please it will help. And if you want to dislike, I don't care. If you wanted to like, you could do it. It doesn't hurt. I'm just gonna keep stacking these. Bye. Bye.